Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Maureen, and today I'm going to be sharing with you how to make McCall's 8664. We're going to be making view B, so go ahead and grab your sewing tools, grab your sewing pattern, cut all your pieces out, and let's get started.
Okay, so we're going to be working a little bit out of order, but this is pattern piece number 2, and you are going to grab pattern piece number 1 and join them where the single notch is. And you're going to sew this down at 5/8 at your machine. Finish the edges at your serger and then press the seam towards the side front. And then you are going to top stitch a 1/4 inch from the seam on pattern piece number 2. Place that to the side, and now you're going to grab pattern pieces 3 and 4. So with right sides together, again matching up those notches on the bottom edge, you are going to attach your upper pocket to your lower pocket. Stitch this down at 5/8 at your machine. When you are finished, go ahead and serge the raw edges and give it a good press. Top stitch the lower pocket at a 1/4 inch from the seam. So at your iron, go ahead and press under a 1/4 inch at the top of your pocket. There are separate instructions for if you are working with knits, but I am using a woven, so I will be using those instructions. Where the notches are, you are going to fold down right sides together and give this a good press. On one side, you are going to do a single stitch going down. Once you do that, go ahead and take your scissors and clip in that corner at the very top. Now turn in your corner using a point turner if you have one, or you can also use a seam ripper. Turn the corner to the wrong side and press, and then you're also going to press under the raw edge that you also did the stitch line on. Stitch the top of your pocket closed along that edge there at your machine. Once that is complete, we are going to pin our pocket to the upper front, and you are going to match the large dot and your notches together. When you made your pocket and you made the upper front, you should have made opposite sides. That way your pockets will be on the outer parts of your legs. You're going to baste along the raw edges, and then you'll top stitch your pocket on the front edge. Be sure to complete these steps for both pant legs. Now we're going to work on pattern piece number 5, which I know looks very unusual, but we are going to reinforce that inner corner there, and we are going to do a stitch line along that corner and then clip into the dot, not through the stitch line though. And then it's going to look sort of like a hinge. Now we're going to grab pattern piece number 6 and connect this to the single notch side of pattern piece number 5. Right sides together, pin this down and give this a stitch at your machine at 5/8. Back stitching at the front and at the end, you will stitch this down at 5/8, serge the raw edges, and then give this a really good press. And then after that, we are going to top stitch the lower front at 1/4 inch from the seam. Back at the sewing table, we are going to connect the upper front to the lower front now. So this part is going to be probably the hardest part of these pants, but I'm going to walk you through it. If you look carefully, you'll notice that it fits just like a puzzle piece along that curvature, and that's going to help guide how you sew this. So putting right sides together, go ahead and pin the bottom edge. Once you finish pinning the bottom edge, you're going to gently turn the pants leg around, and you're going to have a little bit of a space there at the bottom on the left side there, to match up the corners. So it's very important that you match the notches up carefully, and then you match up the edges there carefully as well. And then you may want to clip in some extra notches as well for this area, just to ease in the fabric, depending on what you're using. I'm using a denim twill, and so I definitely need a little bit of easing in this area. This is going to make the fabric more flexible, and then you can put another pin or clip right there as well. Once you finish actually pinning the curve, the rest of the garment becomes a little bit easier, and so you're going to add more clips on this edge right here, and then you're going to take this to your machine and you're going to sew this down at 5/8. And I always like to look to see if I've done this correctly, and so as you can see there, it's starting to turn into a full pant leg, and you see there that you have an inseam and a seat of the pants that are also forming. So this should let you know that you're headed in the right direction. Beginning at the straight lower edge, back stitch at the front, and then stitch all the way down at 5/8, sewing through all thicknesses. As you approach the corners, slow down and lift your presser foot up and pivot the fabric. That way you can start sewing along the curved edge. Definitely take your time along the curved edge. Once you have finished sewing this down, finish your raw edges, give this a good press, and then top stitch the lower front and the lower side back at 1/4 inch. Okay, so now we're going to move on to pattern piece number 8, which is your back. And then we're going to grab the yoke, which is pattern piece number 7. And you are going to put that right sides together. And you are going to stitch this along that raw edge there. And you're going to do this for both sides of the back. Finish those seams and give it a good press. And then you are going to top stitch like we've done the front side as well. Back at our sewing table on the double notch side of pattern piece number 8, we are going to connect this with the front side of our pants. So on the front side, you also have the same matching double notches, and we are going to pin this together and then sew this down at 5/8 and then finish your seams and give it a good press, but we will not be top stitching this time. Back at our sewing table, we are going to connect the inseams now. Place your pins or clips along the inner edge, and we are going to stitch this down at 5/8, and we will finish the seam and then we will not be top stitching. Now we're going to connect our pant legs at the seat. So with right sides together, insert one leg inside of the other. And you'll notice that one leg is inside out and the other one is right side out. And along that curve there, we are going to pin and then sew this down. It's important to make sure that the back yoke adds up and that the front inseam also adds up properly. That way your pants have a professional finish and it doesn't look wonky or anything like that. Back stitching at the beginning and at the end, sew this down at 5/8 and then also reinforce the seam by stitching close to the first stitch in the seat area of the pants. And then you're going to want to finish this raw edge and give it a good press. We will not be top stitching this area either. Okay, so grab pattern piece number 9, and you should have transferred your stitch line and then also on the wrong side added your interfacing and then added your 2 buttonholes. I used a 1/2 inch button to make these holes on my sewing machine. And then on the raw edges, you are going to make a mark about 3 inches from that bottom raw edge and then 7/8 from the top raw edge. And your notches should be wedged in between the middle of those. You'll want to make those same markings on pattern pieces 10 and 11 as well. All right, now grab pattern piece number 10 and matching up those notches and those markings, go ahead and pin these together, right sides together. And these are going to be part of our waistband. Beginning at the markings that we made, backstitch forwards and backwards, and then do so at the raw edge as well. And then you're going to turn the pattern piece around and complete the same steps on the other side. Press the seams open, and now we are going to connect pattern piece number 11 to the raw edges of pattern piece number 10. And again, you're going to want to make sure that you are matching up the notches and the markings that we made on all of the waistband pieces. And you are going to take this back to your machine and sew these in the same fashion that we did pattern pieces 9 and 10, and you are going to press the seams open. Okay, now we have a full complete waistband, and so now we are going to fold this in half, and you are going to give this a press and baste this down along the raw edge at your machine. After this is basted down, you are going to make a couple of stitch lines. So we are going to go along the stitch line that's in yellow, just below those buttonholes, and we're going to do that on pattern pieces 9 and 11 only. Then throughout all 4 pieces of the waistband, we're going to do a 1/4 inch above the basting stitch and then a 1/4 inch below the fold line. And I'm going to take you through all of this. So beginning with the middle stitch line, remember we are only doing this on pattern pieces 9 and 11 where we transferred those markings. Now we are going to do a 1/4 inch seam just above our basting stitch line around the entire waistband. Once we finish that stitch, we are going to start doing the 1/4 inch stitch along the folded edge there. So this is essentially creating a casing and a top stitch along the top folded edge. And this is what your waistband should look like. So now we're going to connect this to our pants and make sure that your buttonholes are on the front side and that they're also facing towards the pant legs. So as you're pinning this, you shouldn't see your buttonholes, but once you actually finish this project, your buttonholes should be facing outward. Go ahead and pin this in place, matching up all of your notches and side seams, and then take this to your machine. Following the basting line that we did earlier, we are going to stitch down our waistband. Finish the raw edges at your serger and give this a good press. Now back at our sewing table, we will be inserting the elastic pieces. I've already done it on the back side, and so now I am going to do it on the front side. So taking a safety pin, we are only going to funnel through pattern piece number 9. Once the elastic is through the casing, this is what it should look like. And now we're going to take this to our machine and stitch this in the ditch. I do have a safety pin in place to make sure that the elastic doesn't move, but I'm going to stitch this with the right side facing up. That way I have a very clean outside. I backstitched a few times to secure it, so I'm just going to clip the thread here. And then on the wrong side, you see there's a little bit sticking out, so I just tuck that in. And once we're done inserting our elastic, we're going to stitch that closed. We're going to complete this step for both sides. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and do that on pattern piece 11 as well, which is the back. All right, so this is what your waistband should look like now. So now we're going to add the twill tape, and per the instructions, the twill tape only acts as a design feature. And so I'm just going to measure evenly down the center and give my twill tape a snip. And then I'm going to take another safety pin and funnel this just through the buttonholes and not through the entire waistband. Now that the twill tape is through the buttonholes, I am going to just do a couple of knots on the bottom. That way it doesn't fray with wear and tear. After finishing the bias tape, go ahead and hem your pants at 2.5 inches. This is just a personal fit note for me, but I did cut off a good bit of the bottom of the pants and then I hemmed it another 2 inches. And you may have to do the same just based on your height and preference. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see y'all next time.
I want to thank you so much for watching that tutorial. Now, if you like this channel, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and comment below for me. I'll see y'all next time.